Let me read a story and then make a few comments. There was an old woman in China who had supported a monk over 20 years. She had built a little hut for him and fed him while he was meditating. Finally, she wondered just what progress he had made in all this time. To find out, she obtained the help of a girl rich in desire. "Go and embrace him," she told her, and then asked him suddenly, "What now?" The girl called upon the monk and without much ado caressed him, asking him what he was going to do about it. "An old tree grows on a cold rock in winter," replied the monk somewhat poetically. "Nowhere is there any warmth." The girl returned and related what he had said. "To think I fed that fellow for 20 years, exclaimed the old woman in anger. "He showed no consideration for your need, no disposition to explain your condition. He need not have responded to passion, but at least he should have evidenced some compassion." She at once went to the hut of the monk and burnt it down. It's a very interesting story. This story is also used as a koan in Rinzai Zen. So, now tell me, how mature was the monk? She had been helping him. She had built a hut and was feeding him for 20 years. 20 years he is meditating. And then she sends a girl to test him. How mature was he?
Very immature.
Oh, how do you know that? He says, an old tree in winter touching a cold rock, no warmth anywhere. Don't you think it is totally sort of detached, sort of free, no passions?
No love, no compassion.
No love and compassion.
No compassion.
No compassion. That is what the old woman says. He need not have fallen into passion, but he should have shown some compassion. And so I try to tell you a little more about these stories. Of course, in Zen history, the koans and so on, there's not much about sex relations. They don't talk about that. And of course, they were mostly monks. But even with monks, there should have been some stories, koans, but not very much. Only one or two koans about old women, old women keeping a tea stall and so on. Otherwise, it's not much. In Japan, actually, it's a problem. In the monasteries, monks, they are very sexist and obnoxious in the monks. Maybe it's a general culture. Actually, in Japanese men, if you tell them, mention about their mother, they will melt like ice. But if you mention only women, no, there is only contempt, so to say. It's a culture. Also in India, also it's not exception. But India and Asian countries, there are so much variety and so on, so different cultures, different ways of behaving. But anyhow, you see. Now, the old woman says, you must have shown some compassion. You see, actually in Zen, when you meditate, when you practice, finally your spirit, your heart and mind must mature into compassion, not simply sort of being self-centered. So you must become compassionate, caring, and so on. Now, the monk, for example, he says, an old tree. He's an old man. He has been meditating more than 20 years. In cold winter, that means it is a winter of penance and asceticism, you see. And touching a cold rock, he has become cold. There is no more passions and no warmth anywhere. I am not excited. I am not touched. And so on, you see. And so let me say a little more. What condition you say the monk is not advanced spiritually? Why? How can he explain? He is passionless, he is detached, he is free. Then why do you say he is not advanced spiritually? What can be the reason? So we explain a little.
No love. It's not coming from his heart.
Okay. And then what else?
He doesn't see the other. He only sees himself.
Yeah, he's too much caught inside himself. The young woman comes. He doesn't even ask, what are you doing? Why are you coming? What need is there for you? You want me to help you a little? And even if she is full of passion and so on, he doesn't talk about that, you see. He only says, I am an old tree, no passions, nothing. He doesn't even listen to her, doesn't care for her. And the old woman, how do you think? She got very angry. She says, to think that I had fed this you good for nothing fellow for 20 years. She goes, burns down the hut, drives him out. There is an attendance in the story, but that's not important. Drives him out. How do you think of the old woman? Is she sort of kind, compassionate, mature? How do you think of the old woman?
So much anger.
Huh?
So much anger.
So much anger, that's true. And then what else? Anger itself is not wrong. You can get angry, but what else?
Well, revenge. She takes revenge that he didn't develop as she expected.
Maybe you can talk about revenge. Okay. And then what else?
She's attached to one particular idea.
Huh?
She's too attached to one particular idea in the sense that she expects the monk to behave in a certain way.
Yeah, need not be an idea. Yeah. The woman also, for example, she is so much upset, angry, and sort of may not be revenge and so on, you see. And she drives him out. She has no compassion. She talks about compassion, but she has no compassion. And if she has compassion, what should she have done? What should she have done? Tell me. Suppose she has a compassionate heart. What should she do?
Continue to let him practice.
Huh?
Continue to let him practice.
Not only continue, she must have dialogued with him. She not simply allow him to go on, no, she must challenge him. She must ask him, why are you doing like this? Can you not change yourself, you see? And what is the point of spiritual practice if you are not compassionate? She not simply allowed to go on, no, then he will be too much narcissistic, you see. And so talk with him, you see, care for him, dialogue with him. And if he refuses, then we can say, since you refuse, perhaps, you must leave and so on. Yes. But what about the young woman? Tell me. She goes and says, Now what are you going to do? She embraces and kisses him and says, now what are you going to do? And he, of course, doesn't care for her, and then she returns. What about the young woman?
She is young and stupid.
But she got this as an order. You don't know if she really wanted to get him to something with her.
Yeah. She is only obeying an order, as you say. You see, she simply goes on obeying an order, and so she doesn't show what is her heart desire. What does she want? Should she want sex or affection or something else? What does she want? She has no identity. You see, it is like one of the crowd, so that, she go and then so on. She has no identity. She's nobody in a sense, you see. And so that sort of thing. Yeah? And so all these three people, they are failing. They are all spiritual practitioners. Nobody sort of seems to be mature enough, you see. And let me say something more. Something more means, I just took out a few things. Our psychological life, intellectual life, spiritual life, they are not only on one level, they grow. We call them stages, you see, sort of phases or stages. We grow, say young people, and then adolescent, and then adult, and then old, and so on. We grow all the time, you see. And when you're growing, each stage has a different experience, a different way of relating. You see, remember that. And so when you are sort of adult, the way you relate will be different from young people, you see. And so let me say, actually I don't want to talk about young children and adolescents. Adolescents, young children, okay, they are growing and so on, struggling to find their own. Adolescence is a major problem. India too, but in the West it's a major problem, you see, because of the internet and all those things. Not only that, how they relate, boys and girls. It seems to be I read some articles, internet and so on, seems to be a major problem. Particularly girls are very much, they don't find their identity, they are lost. And so, how do they find their identity? Maybe simply trying to satisfy the boys and all those things. It seems to be such a crisis. I don't know how they will come out of that. But anyhow, let me talk about the adult stages. Simply adult stage, psychologically, they mention about conformist stage, conformist persons, you see. Conformist persons are sort of, you're part of the group, part of the, you are a member of the group, member of the sort of your particular group, and you are faithful, you perform all the duties, you are friends, you are sort of care for the community goals, and you are too much identified with the group, you see. And so you are the member. Personally, you don't pay too much attention to your own values and so on. Internally, you pay more attention to your behavior, to actions, what do you do. And in that sense, you are become sort of authoritarian. Obedience is very important for you. You become authoritarian. Authoritarian means if somebody misbehaves and so on, you condemn the person, you are rigid, you are sort of exercise authoritarian. Everybody must follow more or less. And also you are very often prejudiced against others, against strangers, against people who are different, you see. And so you don't allow the strangers to come into your group unless they are converted. You follow your rules, you sort of think. And it's very much, many societies are like this, Of course, when you talk about the stages, you can't, everybody is a mixed sort of thing. You are not a pure one stage, so remember that. as a sort of help. So conformist stages are persons of community persons. A phrase it says, don't rock the boat, so to say, don't disturb the community, you see. They are supporting and so on. That is one stage. Many people stay in that stage, you see. They are part of the community and so on. Second stage, conscientious stage. People suddenly they grow slowly, because the authorities are not caring for you. Or, you are also become aware of your own values and emotions. You are sort of become individual. You pay attention more to your values, more to your conscience. And so you are not simply following the rule. You say, what are my values? What are my goals? You see, you become more aware of these things. And then you are also become rebelling more or less against authorities. You don't simply follow the rules. You say, no, I must follow my rules. I have a conscience. You see, and so you become little too much also self-centered. You were following more, then you become too individualistic, you see. So very much in the West, for example, very much individualism is there. And so I follow my way, you follow your way, that sort of thing, you see. Become very much individualistic. And you are also too much attached to your own experiences. And you are also ideological. You are too much ideology, too much values, too much your experience, too much your way. And so you sort of, discard community in a way. It's extreme in a sense. But many people are also individualistic. They don't care for others. Of course, they will cooperate, but they will say primarily me. They sort of sociology is a phrase, they say me generation, yes. And then when you grow out of that, they call that interpersonal or inter-individual stage. Then you realize you can't be alone with yourself. You need others. You are depending on others. You are interdependent or inter-individual, you see. And finally you realize to be yourself, you have to depend on others. And your community you need, and so on, you see. And so you are committed socially, and also you care for yourself, but you are not too much individualistic. You are so to call it inter-individual or interpersonal, so to say. And so you also sort of socially you are involved. You see, you say, we can't do only care for ourselves, you must care for the world, care for the society, care for the community, but also care for yourself and all those things. But the problem is, you may become also very much relativistic, no more absolute truth, no more sort of things, you see. And not only that, you may also talk about, social major problems. You are not, you don't pay attention. You are talking about generally, but sort of society and so on. You may not be too much sort of caring and so on. And so these three stages, adult stages, most of the people, we are living only in these stages. You see, most of the people, we are interpersonal, community people, and then caring people, are too much me generation, caught only individualistic, are very much conformist, follow rules and all those things, don't rock the boat, all those things, you see. We are mostly these things. The last stage, they call it integrated stage. What does it mean? That simply means you realize, of course, you care for yourself, you are willing to sacrifice yourself, you are learning to forget yourself. It's a sort of wisdom. It is sort of compassion for all. You don't simply only care for your own community, You don't simply care only for your own world. You are much more selfless. You see, you learn to sacrifice yourself. You learn sort of caring for others. And you care for yourself. Does not mean you don't care for yourself. But this is not primary. You are caring for your next generation. You are caring for the world. You are sort of become selfless. At the same time, you care sort of, for truth, for sort of what you call, for values and all those things. In the Zen, we will say, for example, in Zen, of course, emptiness form obtains all the stages, but basically, mainly, in the last stage, Zen will become much more clearer in emptiness, so to say, you see. And you remember, for example, Bodhidharma, when the emperor of China asked him, what is the ultimate truth, first principle? And Bodhidharma says, emptiness, no holiness. And then the emperor asked, who are you? I don't know. That is the stage you come. You don't know yourself. And you realize reality is a mystery. Life is a mystery. Yourself is a mystery. And you see, and mystery, of course, as I very often mention, mystery, that's graciousness. You see, emptiness. Emptiness means there are rules, there are values, there are truths, but there are not absolute. Don't sort of make ideologies, absolutes. Follow truth, follow laws, follow rules. But ultimately, you see, I don't know. You, I don't know. But care for yourself, care for others. Everything is a mystery. That Zen becomes very clear, you see. Now, that is a realization of Zen. But at the same time, let me say also a few more words. First about this, I talked about sex relations and so on, you see. Human beings are, let me say this, we are all sexual beings. You see, don't think we are not sexual. We are sexual beings. But make a difference between sexual beings and genital sex. Genital sex means genital. Genital means intercourse and being sort of too much involved in sex. Genital sex. Sexual beings, you are male or female, mother, daughter, son, father, and so you relate to life like that, you see. And so that is very important, that we are all human beings. We should not forget that. But genital sex, is it absolutely essential? Remember, almost all religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, have celibate monks and nuns. What does it mean? Celibacy does not mean you are not sexual, you are sexual. But you don't have genital sexual relations, you see. Genital. That simply means the celibates bear witness to a reality to human beings. You are not absolutely, you don't need absolutely to have genital sex. But genital sex is very important. We don't deny that. But it's not absolutely essential. Remember that. Human beings can be also celibates. And also remember, sexuality has many forms. Not only one form, has many forms. Heterosexual, homosexual, lesbian, bisexual. Also sexuality can be minimal, maximal, all those things. You see, sexuality can be all those things. And sexuality can be also very attractive, very pleasurable, very enjoyable. That's normal. That is how we sort of human beings reproduce, sort of care for our generations and all those things. That's very important. But also remember, all those things. Sex can be also boring. Not only boring, it can be messy. It can be not only messy, sometimes it can be disgusting, repulsive. that also is there. Why? It's not simply because of sex, it is relationships. The persons. If you dislike the person, if you hate, if there is no sort of good relationships, sex will not be good. You remember that. Sex is sort of conditioned by our relationship. If there is love and so on, then sex will be good. And if there is no love, sex will be dry and boring. It will not be okay. For example, you see, and only sort of see duty you can do something. That's all, you see. And so sex is beautiful. Sex is not wrong. Sex can be beautiful. Sex is sort of human beings. We are part of, sex is part of us. But relationships is very important. Very often we relate sexually, but remember, you need not relate genitally, but also genitally you can relate, and that is even old people can do that, all those things. But there must be love, tenderness, and liking, all those things. If it is not there, then sex is dry and so on, you see. And so it is more caring for each other. Personal relationships, that is very important, you see. And so don't forget that, all those things. And so, but relationships, that is the most important. How we relate to each other, how we care for each other, how we hold each other. And so, do we appreciate each other, you see, and so on. Otherwise, sex can become only an addiction. I talked about last session about sexual addictions. Sex is only addiction, you see. And so like a drug addiction and so on, sex can become only an addiction if there is no love, no caring for other, no sort of liking, no sort of mutual relationships and all those things, you see. And so much so, it is in somebody, C.S. Lewis, Four Loves, is an old book, actually old-fashioned book. He talks about love, affection, and then eros. Eros means erotic love. And then friendship, and then charity. Charity means selfless love. He talks only about four kinds of love. Affection, parents and children, affection, you see. Even animals, we can have affection, you see. And then love, sort of friendship. Friendship is only friends. Friendship is much more important for human beings, friends, you see. Friends normally should not have sexual relations. Once you have got sexual relations, genital sexual relations, friendship goes in a way, you see. And so friendship usually affectionate, sharing, but it's not genitally sexual usually, you see, and so on, you see. And then sort of erotic love, eros, sort of, Platonic word eros, it's attraction, it's falling in love, and so on. Falling in love, eros, you can't maintain all your life, you see. But that means you appreciate the other, care for the other, love the other, not simply for sex. Sex is part of the love, you see. You got to have love, you see. And then selfless love. Selfless love is compassion. Even for enemies, you forgive your enemies, love and so on, you see. And then let me also mention these. Students and masters, teachers, doctors and patients, counselors, counseling, they usually should not be genital love, you see. Can be affection, maybe caring, maybe even friendship, not genital love, you see. Once you genital love, you ruin the whole student-master relationships, you see. That's a problem very often in the world. Even priests and then people and then teachers and then students, doctors, patients, therapists, counselors. Once you have sexual genital relations, then it is gone, you see. Of course, you can marry your patient, it's okay, or your student, that's all right. But, with this student, doctor, relationship and so on, it is ruined, it's gone, you see. It may see wonderful beginning, but this is a major problem in the world, okay. And so, but eros is being in love. You sort of love the person primarily, And then, of course, it comes sex also. Love the person primarily, eros, you see. That is, once eros dies out, then love and life and partnership dies, perhaps. You live simply as a sort of friends, nothing else, you see. That's a problem. Okay. Now about Zen, I talked about. Actually, this, what you call emptiness realization is, I said, realization, how will I put it? Compassionate love, the integrated love, and all those things. But remember, in Zen practice, Asana practice, we can say sort of this sort of real selfless love for oneself, for others. How do you sort of call it? Let me sort of quote a small Zen koan. The lotus leaves are round, rounder than a mirror. Lotus leaves are round, rounder than a mirror. And that simply means unconditional love. What does emptiness means? Emptiness, I said, is a mystery, that's a graciousness. It means, this points out unconditional love. What does it mean? Sasana practice is realization you are unconditionally loved. You see, that is an experience of emptiness. You see, and not only you, also the others and the world, everybody is unconditionally loved. First of all, you accept, you realize, you are affirmed, I am unconditionally loved. I am all right as I am, with my sexuality, with my imperfections, my strengths, my beauty, my ugliness, whatever that is, I am I. That is the deep sense. I very often use the metaphor, space and things in space. Space, you say that sort of sky space. Space, you are in a sense self is space. Your body, your mind are embraced by space. That means you can let be yourself. You sort of affirm yourself unconditionally. You are all right. A deep sense, Asana practice is you are all right. You can be accepted. You are okay. And the sort of, how shall we say, the German word, Gelassensein, letting be, that sort of things. And then once you realize that, the second part is, the koan runs, the water nut is sharp. That is, sharpness means you learn to discern good from evil, white from black, and being sensitive and all those things. You see, how are you going to be sharp and so on? That simply means once you are realized, accepted yourself, you can be free. In what sense? You are free, you are absolutely sort of secure and safe. You are free to die, to let go, to sacrifice, and sort of to suffer, and also to deny yourself, to give yourself. You are sort of free. I very often use the phrase, I die and I do not die. You can die because you are secure in one sense. You are the space. You can let yourself go. It's not simply let yourself go. It's not simply that. It is, in what sense? It is, you can relate to others, to each other. You can be open to the other. How can you be open to the other? Don't be absolutely attached to your ideas, to your emotions, to your ideologies. You can be open. You can listen to the other. You can take the other in. And then it is something like both going together. It's not simply saying, I am I, you are you, we can cooperate, we can go. It's not that. You are intermingling. You are interfusing. You are not simply holding on to yourself. You can let go of yourself and then come back. There's a Zen saying, I quote very often, it's a famous saying, before enlightenment, mountains are mountains, trees are trees. That is the individuality, I am I, you are you, that's all. And during the process of enlightenment, mountains are not mountains, trees are not trees. That means you die to yourself. You are no more I. You forget yourself. You let yourself go. And after enlightenment, mountains are mountains, trees are trees. Then you come back to yourself. But the second level is always in the third level. Mountains are not mountains, trees are not trees. That means I am not I. Therefore, you can enter me. You can share with me. And I can share with you. And then I can take up your view. And I can take up your emotions. You are not yourself. You are no more, Zen says, there's no self, no absolute self. You are not absolutely contained within yourself. You are sort of an openness. And so each other, you can sort of, you listen to, care for others, take the other into yourself, and then still at the same time you can come back to yourself. You are all right. And then you can go on. That is real maturity. We can't do easily. That's very difficult. That means, you are so secure, we are so selfless, we are so compassionate, loving, you become free. Like water flowing, you flow into the other, and the other flows into you. At the same time, you can come back to yourself. That's not easy. That is our Zen practice, And so that will come, slowly in the practicing, the go on, In Christianity, let me use that phrase, sort of thing. Trinity, God is supposed to be three, but not three individuals. It's very difficult to explain, and define also very difficult. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, they call it three, are the three dimensions. We can't say that. Three, they use that person, but it's a technical term. They are not persons like us, Three, but there is only one consciousness, one nature, one will, one knowledge. But how can be three then? There are three. That is, they call it in the Greek word perikrosis. Perikrosis means mutual dance. Or in a Latin phrase, circumincissio. Circumincissio means going into the other, coming back, other. They are like a dance, three going together, Only one nature, one will, one knowledge, and they are dancing all the time. That is our supposed to be realization. That you must be you must dance. You must not be static. Go. Life is a journey. You must go on a journey. Give and take all the time. Give and take. You give and take, at the same time come back to yourself. That is a realization, but that is becoming almost divine, That's a divine nature, so to say. That is a Zen practice, so remember that. Also, we can apply also to sexuality always. Sexuality the same. You give and receive and enjoy. At the same time, it's a mutual dance, When you are really sexually sharing, it's a mutual joy, mutual dance, and you forget yourself, and the other forget herself or himself in you, and the mutual dance. At the same time, you come back. I am I, you are you. That's our sexual dance also, And that is what you call divine nature, so to say. That should be, but I tell you, we are all difficult. To live like that, it's not that easy. But slowly, Zen practice should help, but doesn't help always. Doesn't help always. But at least you have sort of initial something, to go on. Okay, so I must end with that. Okay.
That is holy.
I just read one small, a very small one. You see, there was a Korean master, Sang-san, he was not that good, but anyhow, it's a nice story. And, a student asked Sang-san, what is love? You see, and Sang-san asked the master, I ask you, what is love? The student asks, what is love? The master asks, I ask you, what is love? The student was silent. The Sang-san said, this is love. The student was still silent. Sang-san said, I ask, you ask, that is love. It's a beautiful story. Okay, let us take page 13, Bodhisattva vow.
Bodhisattva vow.
When I look at
real
the
form of the universe, all is never-fading manifestation of the mysterious truth of God. In any event, in any moment, in any place, none can be other than the marvelous revelation of its glorious light.